Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day to attend our webinar today. This is Programmer's second in a series of 7 CA webinars that pertain to the collaborative model management with CA ERwin Model Manager. Today's topic is going to be more maximum data modeling with CA ERwin version 7.3. We'll go over the agenda real quick. We're going to go over who we are, CA ERwin Modeling Suite, the CA ERwin Model Manager features, collaborative model management, and at the end we'll have a Q&A session. Who we are. Programmer's Paradise is a leading e-seller of developer and infrastructure tools. You can see all of our offerings at our website, which is www.programmers.com. We have a database worldview up there. Also, Programmers is an elite CA partner. We're actually the #1 data modeling reseller for CA. We have a dedicated CA sales and engineering team on site here. We cover database modeling and infrastructure design and training services. We're a leader in delivering CA education, and we're an authorized VET and VSA partner. You can view our worldview at our website. This covers an industry-leading tools for your end-to-end database needs. It has everything on there from design and modeling all the way through reporting and mining. So let's get right into the demonstration today. We have with us Shubhi Kamakar, who is our senior software engineer here at Programmers. So go ahead, Shubhi.
All right, thank you, Mike. We're going to start with what is Model Manager, and as I go in and share my desktop, you'll be able to see all of the slides here. So let me do that just in a minute and share my presentation and document first. All right, so here's my slide. My first slide, and you have seen this slide before, where we actually talk about a lot of different tools. The modeling suite actually comprises of data modeler, process modeler, the validator, model manager in there. We also have data profiler tool, and you might have heard about it. It's the tool that fits into the analysis phase, and it helps you do all kinds of column analysis and primary key, foreign key relationships. It's a very good tool, and we will have one of the series dedicated to data profiler. We've also talked a little bit about import-export bridges, where the data modeler can pull in information from lots of different applications that are out there. We will also cover that in one of our sessions. Sapphire option, as you may know, is where ERwin talks to ERP systems, whether those ERP systems are your SAP or PeopleSoft, BW, Oracle. And what ERwin allows you to do in that sphere is you can bring in all the metadata. One of the things that we all struggle with is metadata that's all over the place in the company. Some people have it in their head because that's the job security, except it doesn't help the business when the metadata is all over the place because you need to see it. So data modeler actually helps you. It's right in the middle to take care of the information. Now today's topic is Model Manager, and as you can see, the Model Manager actually allows you to be the repository for your ERwin data models and also ERwin process models. It is a server-based repository, and basically it's a scalable, multi-user modeling environment, basically, that provides innovative and easy-to-use services that help modelers work together more efficiently, because basically it fosters communication in a controlled environment, increasing quality and productivity. So as your models evolve to the enterprise level, then you have the need for multiple team members to simultaneously update a model, right? And what happens right now, if you guys are using shared drive or saving models someplace, you come up with some innovative ways of naming it. And my way was, the name of the project, the date, and then saying Shubhi, and then maybe saying AM and PM. So somehow, miraculously, I would remember what version of information I was looking at. Now, since Model Manager is a server-based repository, it has that audit trail built in. Each time I save, it'll actually go in and give me that ability, automatically name my model with the version name, number, and the date and time. It also allows me to do this through library management and security management. So I have something called Library Manager. So that's the filing system, so to speak. I could have libraries for lots of different reasons, different environments. I could also have security at different level, just like your database security. And we'll look into it as I open the model and start the demo. When we talk about version control, as I said, you can have regular versions each time you save. You could also have milestone versioning in there. What that means is when you're done with specific requirements, you can move the model from, say, development to test and test to production. You could actually create a milestone version or baseline version so that when you need it, you can go back to that in case that's the one that you want to implement. That's one of the things that a lot of people likes, because if you go, say, Saturday morning, you have new version out there, new version of the application, and something doesn't work, Model Manager will allow you to go back to the previous version. Impact analysis and conflict resolution, basically, very quickly I can check information, what I've done right now and what I did yesterday or day before or 6 months ago. You could reuse of model objects. Basically, if I have an enterprise level model that is stored in the enterprise level library, I'm making it accessible to other people so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can go to the model and start using the information. And the best of all, it provides me with global reporting. I don't have to dream who's using what data elements. I don't have to find them, and be paying for them, sending them emails saying, what kind of data element are you using? Are you using the same length that we used last time? Are you changing it? I can actually do global reporting, so it becomes really manageable for me. If I'm the data architect and if I'm putting so much sweat and time into creating that perfect data model, then I want to make sure that, globally in my environment, everybody's using that. So my core features then are multi-user checkout and log. So those people who are all using my development library or my production library, I could actually separate that by DAs and DBAs, and they can use the models that they need. You can also lock the model. So if I need to finish some work because I have a deadline, or I need to finish some work because I'm going on vacation and I don't want to, have everything left behind. So if I want to finish my work, I could lock my model. The other people can still go in and open the model. They just can't save till I save or till I take the lock off. There is impact analysis, as I told you before. There are different security profiles, so depending on my security profile, I can access information. You can actually control people all the way to the entity and attribute level. The idea here is not to be the pain for other people. The idea here is to actually, you have all that information, you have put in all the time, you should be able to control the information for you, especially now that people work in global environments and you have developers in other countries, you have consultants that would be opening your models, and let's face it, these are your applications that people would be working with, so you may want to make sure that they're secured. Conflict resolution, data process model synchronization, I really like it. For those of you who really believe in process modeling, those of you who have had a chance to create them, you can also save them. So when the question comes as to, am I using the right entities, am I using the right attributes, and business people are not to be found, or they moved on, or SMEs out, or what have you, you can always go to the process model and check it out. And it gives you that complete picture in the synchronization. CA ERwin Model Navigator. It's another tool, actually. It's a read-only ERwin. So those of you who are sitting there and going, and I don't think ERwin's expensive, but that's one word that's different for everybody. But if you were to use read-only, those of you who are sitting out there and going, you know what, I spent too much time in printing my model for other people or running reports for other people, you can use Model Navigator, because Navigator would give people access to your model that are in the repository. So user with Navigator, basically that's a read-only ERwin, so they can go and make, changes like font and color or what have you. They can open the model though. They can run reports. They can also print the model. So it really helps when you do collaborative work management there. Those people who would be working with Informatica or you're doing your data warehousing and want to go check your models that are ODS models, they can do that. It also allows you with versioning, as I said before, sharing an intelligent model merge, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And what that means is you always have a model in the repository, and more than one person can open the same model. So when you have all these 2, 3, 4 copies of the model open out there, as people bring it in and try to save it over in the Model Manager, it actually does the model merge for you. Here is a quick pictorial representation of what Model Manager allows you. So Model Manager actually would create a sort of a MART or database instance, either on Oracle or SQL Server or Sybase. So once I create that instance Model MART, Model Manager creates about 25 different tables in there for your license information, for your object information. And once you create that, DBA's job is to create this instance on the database, create users for this instance. So once then you are a user, ERwin user, you can go and connect. So you guys must have done reverse engineering, because that's where we all start our life as a data modeler. Same thing you do. You go and connect to this DBMS that you would have the Model Manager on, and you would go in and open your model. So as you can see, I can connect through my data modeler, ERwin Data Modeler only. I can connect through my ERwin Model Navigator and also through ERwin Process Modeler, and then go in and open the models from the Model Manager out there. When you create the library structure, so once the Model Manager is ready and ERwin becomes the client, then you open your Model Manager, and now you would see all of the users already there. So you would then go through the security profile, and then the next thing you would do is actually create the library architecture. Library architecture can be created by users if you wanted to. If suppose you all work on absolutely different projects, you never share anything, but you like the security part here, you like the versioning here, so I could have libraries for Shubi, Julie, or Debbie. I could also do it by databases. If I'm using, if I have certain applications, I have Oracle, Redbrick, SQL Server, what have you. I could also do, and most of the people prefer that, they go from development, test, production, or typically test and production is the same, where test actually goes into production. So basically it's saying that you can have permutation combinations of your libraries, and that's where you would go in and save your models. The next slide actually talks about the terminology. Okay, so Model MART is the entire MART with all of your, 76 models in there. Anybody, anywhere using model for your company would be there. You would create different libraries under there. So right now, as you can see, this is a little older slide that says MM41. It should probably say MM73. But you would have your libraries there, development and production and so on. And you would also go keep your submodels. There are 3 different version types that you would have. Every time you save a model, that would be, it creates a version, model version, and it would give it a name saying who saved it, or when it was saved, and so on. It'll also show you whether it's a logical model or logical physical model, right here, accounting. And the marked version is actually telling me that I created something as a benchmark version. All right. So in my modeling environment, the Model Manager's role basically is it'll organize related models into libraries. So now think about this. When it says related models, suppose I have a project for accounting project, but I have different applications for accounting, and I'm running those accounting on different databases, and and to add some more spice to it, maybe I'm running it on different databases in U.S. and different in UK or some other country out there. I'm working globally. I can control access to user permissions. I can provide a multi-user work environment. When I am home, my other counterparts in other countries are working with the same model. And they're also creating versioning. When I come back home tomorrow, I know exactly what changes they did because I can go in and do something called differences between the model now and model then. You also have capabilities where you have more than one person opening the same model, as you can see, and one of the three clients can actually go in and lock the model. All right. So the value here is, before I move on to the demo, is actually libraries will allow you to share the object. DevTouch allows model and application lifecycle for a particular application. And I've been to places where people have, they say to me that we have scheduled applications, that we have maybe 4 versions or 4 builds that are out there in a year, and we have so many different environments and we have so many different applications, and we're going to work it that way. That's the best use of the tool. Milestone versioning actually gives me ability to go back and forth. If there is a problem, I can always go back, and then I can automate a lot of other stuff in there. So let me go in and share my desktop so that I can move on to my model here. So right now, you should all be looking at my ModelMart, or basically my ERwin, because ModelMart and ERwin are client and server. All right. You must have seen your ERwin with Services tab in there. Basically, I have my ModelMart that is created on SQL Server on my laptop, SQL Server 2005. All right. So when I go in and connect to it, basically, it will ask me the same credentials that it always asks me when I connect to any of the databases, right? It'll ask me what database I'm connecting to. Since it's ModelManager, I have a choice, SQL Server, Oracle, or Sybase. It'll ask me what kind of authentication, whether it's a database authentication or whether it's Windows authentication, my username and password. And what I need to add in there is my connection type, as in use native connection in this case, my server and database. Now, for those of you who are on Oracle, you'll have to provide with all of your TNS name Aura and all of that and good information. And if you've worked ERwin before for reverse engineering, ERwin actually keeps track of all the places that it has connected. So I now am connected to ModelMart. And once I connect to ModelMart, at the bottom of my screen, you'll see that I'm connected as Shubi. So it tells me that I'm connected. It also says that I've opened a model through ModelMart. Look at all the way at the top, that blue line. I suggest to people all the time that please keep an eye there, what you're working with. I have been a modeler for too long to know that after a while, the models start looking alike. And depending on the day and time, they do look alike. So make sure that you know that you're working for a ModelMart model, or whether you're and the best practice, of course, is once you have ModelMart, not to have anything sitting on your desktop or anywhere else. But, we all know that the time comes when you may have a model sitting out there. Just make sure that that's what it is. So the first thing you would do is go through and create different libraries, because once you have the ModelMart, your DBA would go in and create the ModelMart on the database. Then the next thing you will see all of the users in there. So first thing is to take care of the security. So the DBA or the ModelMart administrator, again, most of the time it's the same person. Your DBA's job, and DBAs may be thinking, wait a minute, do I need this extra work? Believe me, it's on autopilot once you go in and create ModelMart. Really, you don't have to do much. You have to just make sure that it gets backed up at regular time intervals and clean up the, lot of other backed up database instances. But basically, once you go in, you should be able to see number of user licenses. Now, again, these are concurrent licenses that you have. So if I have 10 licenses, that means 10 people can log into it. All right, we want you to purchase per user sheet, but that's what it is. So you have 10 user licenses. You would go in and create those users. Once I have them on the database level, I should see them all here. So I have Shubi, I have user 1, user 2, and at the top of the screen, I'm looking at all of my different libraries that I have, and also, again, initially when you start, you won't have any libraries. Initially when you start, you'll only have ModelMart. You have your users. You can take the user and give them different profiles. Now, if you look at the profile, basically, ERwin out of the box, or ModelMart out of the box, gives you 5 different profiles: administrator, architect, modeler, viewer, and guest. And as you must have realized when you look down here, at different level, at mark level, at library level, at model level, you have different profile for each individual person. Of course, administrator can do everything. They can create the mark, delete the mark. The architects can do everything but creating the mark. Modelers would not be able to create your libraries or what have you. You can go, they will then, once they have the library and they've been given permissions, they can then use, to their profile to work on it. You could also have a viewer profile, which is basically something that you can create or change. And what I like about this is I can create a new profile for my consultants. So anytime I have a consultant joining in, I know exactly what they can do with my model mart, and the DBAs don't have to go, putz with it all the time. So that's your choice. You can create it and then click OK. Once you create and click OK, you would then be able to see a consultant profile that you have actually awarded to a person, and they can go in and use that. Now what I could do is take Shubi and say, you know what, here are a few libraries. Shubi is for data warehousing. She could be my architect, but actually on these models, I want to give her lesser of the privileges. And what would happen is lesser privileges do prevail. So even though you are an architect, if for that particular you're on the architect at the library level, if the model level you have lesser privileges, then those are the ones that you can work with. And the idea or intent here is not to be roadblock for people. The idea here is so that, so even people don't even make mistake by just because they were rushing through it or what have you. It just won't allow me to change or do something that I'm not supposed to. There are also administrative level reports. So if I run a report from here, when I click, it'll basically take me to the administrative reporting, and that would allow me to go in and see actually the security reports. So once I run the security reports, it'll tell me who the user is, what objects are there, what profile this person has, whether the person can work with it, and so on and so forth. Again, those are administrative reports, and they are available at different places. So that was with my security manager. The next thing is your library manager, and as I said to you before, you would start creating your libraries. Creating libraries is very easy. I would go in and create a library for programmers here. And once I create programmers, basically it'll remember that I was the person who created it because I'm logged in as Shubi. Once I create it, it will say that, the programmers was created by whoever, and it's never updated. Of course, there's not even any model in there. All right. There's also availability of reporting in here. If you go to some other ones, here, if I go to this RBC dev, basically says it was created on whatever date. It is never updated. How many entities and how many attributes or how many objects does it have? So that's a great way of keeping documentation that you otherwise won't keep. Then it's just check in and check out. You would just go in and open a regular model that's out there. So if I have a small model, I can open it and I can go to services, and when I say save as, basically I'll have to go in and open the library and click OK. You could also go and create a library. For those of you who use our templates, you can also save the model as a template. And I really like this idea so that, so first of all, people can say to you, oh, you had template? I didn't know you had template. Well, well, now you can tell everybody templates are in a library called template. Naming standard file is in the library called information. Data type standard file is in the information, and so on. So I go in and save this model where I, in a particular area, and then I could also go in and close that model. All right. So we looked at library manager. We looked at version manager. Now, when you're working, you basically can come in and open a model, right? So as I start my demo here, I can go to services. I go to open, and I will be able to go in and open a model that I need to work with. So suppose I go in and open this RBC demo model. Now, one thing that I want to point out here is Model Manager actually allows me to open only a subject area. I can actually hear people going, oh, I was wondering if I could do that, because a lot of you have huge models, and you've seen it. Sometimes it takes about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to open a larger model. Plus, you don't want to see everything that's out there. You can actually open the smaller model, the submodel, And you also have ability to lock the model or you open it read-only. Why would you do any one of that? It's obvious, right? You would use read-only because you want to see certain things but not make any changes. You would lock it so that you're the first person you're making the change. And that becomes hindrance, but not really, because if I'm working with this model, the user 1 and user 2 can actually open the model, but they won't be able to save till I get the lock off. All right, but I want to go in and actually open the entire model in there. So once I go in and open, it'll basically open it in the unlock mode. Now, once I start working with the model, basically what it'll do, as I go through that model, it'll keep on making the changes, and I will have versions. See there, it says RBC Computers 21, version number 21. So let's go to the version manager to see what I have in there. All right, so I go to my library name is demo. It already is telling me that I have a model open which is unlocked. So now when I go in, I have a model version that I last saved was V20. All right, so what does that mean? That means the one that I've opened is V21, and I don't open it. Please remember never to open the model from Version Manager unless something goes really wrong and you want to write over the model that's already there. Most of the time, you would open the model from the Library Manager. Version Manager is there to take care of all of your versions. So here it is. I start working with the model. I open the model. I could go in, start making changes. So suppose I go to an entity called employee. I love to work with these employee tables or an employee entity in there. I want to go in and change the data type. I make the change to 60, last name. I make the change first name to, say, 40. All right. I could, again, in the same session, I could go to another one of those and say I go to the action taken and it says 250 and I'm making it down to 220 or something. All right, so basically all I'm doing is making changes to the model. All right, as I start making changes, you do see all of the changes in your action log, and believe me, these are the changes that are also saved in Model Manager. Now, Model Manager can be painful sometimes. We all know that things work in the demo. We all know that demo models are smaller, right? And I can actually see some people going, So I've seen those huge models that you guys work with. So first thing you remember is go to Tools, go to Options, and there is an option for people in the Model Manager to say bypass difference reconciliation dialog if there are no conflicts. Basically, ERwin uses complete compare screen at every place. So if I were to make some changes and the changes are conflicting changes, ERwin will say to me, oops, you made conflicting changes. This is what it is. Sometimes it sits there and shows every single change, and many a times that's not needed. If I'm the only person working with this and I've made the changes, then I should be able to go in and quickly save it. I could also see review changes. Basically, review changes says to me that since you opened this model, you've made some changes. Those of you who have worked with ERwin for years, and Model Manager, that the action log actually showed me all the changes that I had made. But if I go with my two models now and I say compare, basically it's going to compare my two models. The first one that's already saved and the changes that I just made. So of course I made the change to employee first name and employee last name, and it's telling me that I changed the employee first name from varchar 20 to varchar 40. For my employee last name, I've made the change as well. All right, so those of you who believe in making methodical changes, printing it out, talking it over, then saving it, here's your chance. You can actually review the changes before you go in and say, make these changes or apply these changes, all right? That's the way it works. Now I can go in and say save in my model. Now remember, what I'm showing you is just me connected to my model and saving the model in there, all right? So when I go to my model and save it, it would go in and save at the place. Now it's not allowing me to save because it just saved. And when I go to the version control, I should be able to say that it created a version 21. Now, if I go to these two versions in there, I will be able to see the differences, the same differences that you just saw that told me the changes that I made. The screen that you just saw is the same screen you're going to see if suppose the changes were made by Shubi and user 1. All right, so if I had made the change one place as length 20 and somebody else had made the length 40, then it says to me, look, Shubi, you made the change 20, but somebody has already made the change 40 since you have opened the model. Let me repeat. There is a model in Model Manager. I opened the model, user 1 opened the model. User 1 went and made a change. We made the change to the same object. That could happen. You could be working on 2 different projects, and in that case, if you're working on 2 different projects, it would be really difficult to know that the other person's also working with the same object at the same time. There is a way you can check, but typically when you open the model, you don't really, looking at who's opened it and whatnot. But this is the way I can say, it will say to me, user 1 saved it version 21, Shubi saved it version 20, and so on and so forth. One of the things that you can do with these versions, suppose I like what I see here, and this is the model before I made the changes, that I want to mark that version. It's a milestone version. By default, we name it as milestone version. I can say moving to, or stepping through or whatever, moving to test, and given to whoever, and so, or maybe when I say moving to test, they know that that's what it's going to be. People are going to go and work with it. Now, there's a description here as well. Now, as you can see, every single change is a delta change, except where it says MS1. Basically, I pulled in all the changes and kept a full copy. Now, the best practice would be to delete or purge these other, because you don't need it. And that's a joke, right? We all understand, right? There's no purge, there's no delete. We tend to keep everything that's out there. I want you guys to get into best practice. Tell yourselves every 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, when the models move from development to test, please, 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 as you start creating your milestone versions, go periodically and purge your versions, because your model mart will run faster. Because every time it opens, it has to look at all of these, the delta changes that you have. Suppose everything goes haywire. Something goes wrong somewhere. Suppose you're working on the project and the project lead comes one day and says, last 3 weeks, the work that we have been doing, there is a problem. What the user thought and user said is not the same as what we thought and we did, and the user didn't have time to look at our models, but anyway, we have to go back to whatever. All right, that particular benchmark model that we had, you can always come to Version Manager, open the benchmark model from here, save it over. That way, all of these changes would be deleted automatically. You don't have to do it. It's so much relief if Model Manager can just take care of these things. All right, so let's look at this again. We looked at opening and closing. We looked at save as. I showed you where the locking is. Now, one thing I didn't talk about, and then it'll show you that I'm an old timer. Here are all the icons. So people can just go through here as opposed to going through the menu option. All right. We also saw what the versions are, review changes. Now you want to see what the refresh is all about. So I was talking about user 1, user 2, and myself working on the same model at the same time. And I had my model locked, and I'm working with it. Well, when I saved the model, I still have it locked. Other people who are connected can always go in and refresh their model. What happens when they're refreshing, ERwin brings up complete compare screen and says, Shubi just made these changes to these objects. So if you have already made those changes, they're already there in the model mart. So you do have a choice of either not doing any work right now and waiting for Shubi to just finish her work, or you can just go in and say refresh and bring in the information from that model into yours if the need be. All right, we looked at Library Manager, we looked at connections. Now, the session manager, actually, if you are an administrator, will tell you who's connected and who has what model open out there. So if somebody locks the model and leaves, you can always go back and unlock it, or just, just kill the session, terminate the session, so that way you would have it usable. Now, one more thing that I want to talk about, which is very important in my mind, is actually data browser report. Now that you're connected to the data model, to the database, ERwin gives you, or Model Manager gives you, a little bit more reporting that ERwin is. And you would love this. Those of you who want to see, anything that's out there, what are the data elements that you have? What are the data elements that you're working with? How many places will I have to make that change? If I'm changing last name length from 60 to 120, well, this is the best place, because now all of your models are in ModelMart. They're all residing there. So I can use the reporting that's called global reporting through Model Manager. What that allows me to do, there are global reports. They're reports by diagram, so I can go in and see. First of all, since it's database, every single object has an ID in there. So it's a lot easier for me to go in and run the report, look for the information. So I can see that all of my models have different diagram ID in there. What if I wanted to go in and see, well, what library, how many diagrams do I have, what kind of entities do I have? So basically, it'll give me this report saying you have a demo 312 library. Here's a diagram, and this is the entity. Think about this. You have everybody, all of your 17 ERwin users with, 67 models are working happily with Model Manager. All of the models are in ModelMart. And you are, as a data architect, your job is to make certain changes because you just got bought over by that beautiful, money-making company XYZ, and now you want to change certain names to adhere to the XYZ's naming standard. All right, so you start that methodical change in your modeling environment. And how do I do that? First, I go find out all the entities that are out there, who are using the entities, what model libraries do they have, are they in, which application is using it. So now it's easier for me to see which application is using it, when is the renewal coming for that application, or when is the new batch coming out, or when is the new version coming out, so that way I can then use, the judgment to go and make those changes. I could also go in and see, what libraries I have, what diagrams I have, and what version do I have there. Remember user-defined properties that we talk about in ERwin? User-defined properties is all of the metadata for those people who are doing just ODSs day in and day out, or data warehousing models, working with Informatica or Cognos or all of those ETL tools and find out that metadata is all over the place, trying to do data profiling, trying to do data quality, master data management, data governance, hey, you name it. All of those projects require what? That you have some kind of control over your information. User-defined properties allows you to do that metadata control. Who owns this data? Who is the subject matter expert? Where is this used? How does it change? What kind of information do we get for this column or this value? How is this changing? Is this table changing? Is this type 1, type 2 for data warehousing? All of the information can be kept in as user-defined properties. And now there's one place I can see the user-defined property and also what is the default value for that particular user-defined property. So just remember, making a change gets a lot easier. I could also go in and do other reporting. I mean, this doesn't stop me. I can go in and look at, diagram reports for the definitions. I have an ability to go in, look for entity table, attribute column, data type. Now what it's going to say to me, it should be, give me the diagram ID so I can run that report. Now, those of you who are thinking here going, oh, this is swell. I don't even have to open my model and run my report, right? That's what it is. You don't have to open the model. You can actually go in and run this report, and you want to make sure that you're looking at the diagram ID. And I could just go in and punch in the number here. So if I go punch in RBC computers 122, let me go in, 122 527, and when I run the report, basically it will go in and run that report to give me for that particular table. Now I've taken the a mammoth model there. It's not that bad. No, wait a minute. Yeah, there's 275 objects. It'll still give me the entity name, the table name, the attribute, the column, the data type, and null option. Very easy to use. Very easy to use when you're doing reporting. You also have other reports in there. Oh, sorry, it's still running it. You also have other reports. Remember the model validation reports that you're used to through ERwin, where you actually go in and run reports so that you can see information that you have used. Model validation allows you to look at the report where you have entities but no columns, or index but no columns, the members in there. There are also other reports. And what I like about Model Manager, because it's on a database, is basically what you can do is write your own query. So you don't have to take what's out of the box. You can actually go in and run your own reports so that it's a lot easier to go in and look at the information. So let me go in and see. I can't. Okay, so I'm just going to end my tool here and go back to my presentation or my slides so we can move on. So basically, in the end, what it's saying to you is ERwin and Model Manager allows you to do automated database schema generation, basically, creating your DDLs. Database alterations. You could do database schema documentation, schema migration. You can do database design validation. You could do metadata discovery, database design publication and reporting, database design reuse, and data process integration analysis. What I want to do is, at this point, actually open it up for people to ask questions. So if you have any questions, call me or just send those through the typing, and Danielle can take over from here, and then if you have any questions, she will then report them to me. Danielle?
Okay, we have one question from C. Lou. Can I lock just one SA, not the entire model?
When you are going into Model Manager and saving it, yes, absolutely. No, you can lock the SA, but what will happen is it will lock the entire model. Because remember, Sindhu, that integration of the information, you have to keep it, right? Even though you have one subject area that you have logged, essentially that model could have been used by other people. And if other people are using it, then you want to make sure that they're not going and making a change. There's a reason why you've gone in and locked the model, and you just want to make sure that people understand why you've done that.
Okay. Second question is, how can you run your own query to MM?
All right, very good question. When you write your own query, you go to File, and this is in Data Browser, by the way. So you go to Tools, Data Browser, and then you go to File, New Query. And this is the place you would write your query, and once you write it, you could just go in and click on Go, and it will give you the results.
Okay. And next question, does terminating a model always unlock a locked model? Is that the only way to unlock a locked model?
No. Actually, you can unlock the model. The owner can go into model and unlock the model themselves. See, if I had my model locked, I have a locking button right here at the top, right? So I can see, and I hope people can see my screen because I'm sharing it, but you can lock the model through the icon here, or you can go to Services and Lock, and there are two different colors. I would have a, if I have locked it just for myself, then it's going to show me green color, but if I've locked it and other people are seeing it, they will see it as a red lock so that they know that the other person has locked the model. And no, termination is not the only way the user can unlock the model.
Okay, do we have any other questions for Shuey? Is it possible to share entity between two models in a library?
Yes. Actually, Model Manager keeps all of the objects at model level objects. So suppose I have a library for accounting projects, and I have 6 models in there, and they all 6 have customer in there. I could, in fact, not only have customer in there, I am not saying it's a good practice, but you could have customer with different data elements in there as well. It will keep it separate. And you can go in and share the same entity in 2 different models. Now, if the question that you're saying, okay, so if I have 2 different people using the same entity, if I make the change on one place, well, for the other person to get the information, you may want to go in and complete compare and get the information. Or better yet, if you do model-driven architecture, you can have a enterprise-level model as the model source. So you should go in and make the changes in the enterprise model so everybody who's working with that information is privy to it.
Okay, next question. I understand that the person who locked the model can unlock it. However, I'm trying to determine how or who can override a locked model. Is this only the administrator through the terminate facility?
Yes, that's absolutely a great question, and yes, it is the administrator. You need to be ModelManager administrator or DBA typically, who can look at the sessions and go in and terminate it. Yes.
Okay. Next question is there anything to consider when saving models the traditional way as a file in parallel with saving it to ModelManager?
Not really. If it's a huge model and you're trying to save it to the model mart, just make sure that you're not rushing to it. At the end of the day, we all know this, right? The model mart is on a database. It's on server. So at the end of the day, you do know that everybody's trying to rush and try to, save things over the server and so on and so forth. So depending on the traffic, it will take a minute or 2. And some parts of the day, the minute or 2 seems a lot longer than the other parts. So that's all I can say. Other than that, you really just have to make sure that you're saving it to the right library that you're saving it into. But other than that, there isn't anything, it isn't a rocket science.
Okay. So one question. Does model management ensure that data model and process model are using the same schematics? Is ERwin Process Modeler enforce BPMN standard? Is CA going to have an MDM tool that fully integrate with ERwin so that what people have created an ERwin model would contribute to the MDM solution?
Thanks for that great question. We have data model and process modeler. We do not have BPMN tool. What we have is an IDEF tool that allows you to do what is it that you do, how is it that you do. You can also do your swim lanes. So it's basically great for any business process modeler to see what's going on. Now, the other tools can maybe allow you to go in and write your business rules in there and then, take care of some kind of rules engine. We don't have any of that. And some of the reason being also that we realize that people who work out there who do the data models and process models, they are, worried about the rules engine, but typically it's taken care, the rules are taken care by application level code. If that's the case, which, when you start doing your data warehousing and other projects, and Informatica or other tools like that would actually help you do the application code, then a lot of people do not use it. Having said that, this is probably, I'm giving you a runaround for your question. No, but for the MDM right now, we do have ERwin Data Profiler. That's the first place or first step in the entire master data management. So with ERwin Data Profiler, you can go do your column analysis, you can look at your primary foreign key relationship, you can look at your overlap, you can do bulk of the analysis phase, and then you can move on to the other tools. We all understand that you may be using different ETL tools, but what you really need is that analysis phase, and for the price standpoint and the help of ERwin, the ERwin Data Profiler actually makes a lot of sense. But that's what CA has right now. As we speak, the data profiling tool that would allow you to do the first phase of your MDM, or master data management. And also, the part of that is in ERwin. It talks to ERwin very well. So as you go into column analysis on more than one data source, you can look at and see what is the parent table here? Which application has customer information up to the point, or in time, current information, and which information can I really trust to use my data warehousing or data mining or MDM? Hope that answers your question.
Okay, from the same attendee, I do not have an enterprise model. Instead, I have separate ERwin models in Model Mart. Can you indicate how to share an object, i.e. an entity, between two or more models without having an enterprise model?
Very good question. But if you're using something, if you're sharing an entity, basically what we're saying is, here is a repository that you have entity in. So in your case, you say you have 15 models and you have customer. And if you're talking about, good practices, maybe you have, when you create customer, it's always a customer with the same 17 different attributes in there. A lot of people have customer with, varied number of attributes in there, because you could have, local customer, global customer, that have blanket orders and whatnot, right? If that is the case, then your attributes could be different. The only way, so if I'm showing you here, basically when I'm sharing it, first thing I would do is run a report, look at the entity that I want. So if I go in and do my same report that I showed you before, if I go to the library diagram and entity report, I would basically have to go in and see what entity, where it is, and then go in and open that model and basically bring that entity in my model. That is the only way to go in and actually share that entity.
Okay. Can I specify one group who can update tables and columns, and then specify another group that can update only the database, indices, etc. on the same subject area model?
Absolutely. Very good question. In fact, that's what the security is there for. So if I'm going into my security manager, what I could do there is, remember before I made Shubi at one level, I made her an architect. Now, instead of having a consultant as a profile, I can have a profile that says that it gives me ability to update entity and attribute updater, and then another profile for whatever you wanted them to do. And depending on where I am, I could go on the accounting and say Shubi is a modeler on accounting, Shubi on employees and architect, Shubi on main subject area, so on and so forth. I could go in and give different privileges on the same model but different subject areas. You could do permutation combination of it. Just remember, more guards that you have, more chains that you have, you may want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what privileges they have. It's just like database privileges, and it will forbid you, stop you from doing things that you're not allowed to do.
Okay, next question. Explain the guest profile. Does it use the license?
Great question again. Guest profile is a blank profile that we give you. If you have guest profile, that means you can open any model in any library. So those of you who are concerned about your consultants, and I'm sorry I'm picking out on consultants, but basically I'm talking about people who are not the employees of your company. You may be working with, outsourcing information out there, and you may or may not want them to open certain information out there. Then you do not want to use guest profile for them. Otherwise, people with guests can go to any library and open any model. Instead, you could use guest for ERwin Navigator people who can use that profile to open the model. But if you really wanted to control, then you need to use anything above viewer. So you can use the viewer, the modeler, and then create specific profiles. Okay.
Any other questions for Shubi? I think I've covered them all. Give another minute or so. Okay, one more just came in. Can one model entity become shortcut to different models so that it is modified in one model can show in another model?
Very good question, except what happens there is if you want that to happen, you really need to look at something called design layer architecture. What that means is at a higher level I have, and I keep on calling it enterprise model and people shy away from it, but what I mean is one model that has a lot more information than the others. All right, let's think of it as an enterprise level model. So if I have one model that has almost all of the subject areas that my business uses, then what I could do is every time there's a new application comes in, I can make this as a parent model, create a subject area, derive a new model. Now I already have the enterprise level model as a parent model. So when something changes in my parent model or something changes in my model, there is under tools, there is a button called sync with model source. And it will actually let you take that information back and forth. Now, ERwin doesn't do it automatically, because one of the things that we realize is, the work environment is such that there are tons of applications people work on, a lot of information that you work on. You don't want to go in and change somebody else's information without their knowledge, because then, you know what happens to you, right? When you go and open something that has a different color or font, and now we're talking about actually subject information changing. So yes, what you could do is do design their architecture, and that would actually allow you to make the changes. Any more questions? There is a question there says, are there classes that cover Data Modeler and Model Manager, 3 5-day classes? Yes, there are. Scott, we have a process modeling classes typically for 3 days, and what that covers is what is it that you do and how is it that you do it, and doing your process modeling, and also how the business and data information can be synchronized with each other. We also have Model Manager class for like a couple of days, and the reason being, again, once the Model Manager is implemented, people don't get time to play with it, and they don't use it to the fullest extent that they could use and make mistakes, and then we all know, right, that the tool gets blamed for shortcuts that you were not supposed to take. So absolutely, our 5-day class, actually, we can customize it to 5 days if the need be, but, and these are all CA certified classes, 4 days of ERwin class, and 2 days of Model Manager class. We do also offer on-site training, so let us know if you're interested, and we customize it. So basically seeing what your need is and giving it what you want. In today's environment, we've also started web-based education. So if you have new people that are working with the tool and just want to get some things out of the way, we understand people's needs, and we're doing also web-based services. So let us know if you're interested in any one of these.
Okay, looks like all the questions have been answered. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mike.
Thanks a lot, Shubi, and thanks everyone for the great questions. If you do have other questions and didn't get a chance to ask them, feel free to contact Shubi directly. You can call us direct at the 800 number listed on the screen there. If you even want to have a one-on-one briefing with Shubi, we can set that up. We can also do a free data model health check. And we have an email there ca.erwin@programmers.com. We also offer product upgrades and other trainings, which Shubi has gone over. Also, we have some upcoming webinars, one coming July 23rd, which is Validate Data Model Integrity with CA ERwin Data Model Validator. And we have a couple more after that. So we hope to see you all on those. And once again, thanks for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Thanks, everyone.